بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the barakah of La ilaha illallah, to give us the knowledge of La ilaha illallah, and to give us the understanding of La ilaha illallah, and to allow us to permeate and be impregnated with the haqiqah of La ilaha illallah. Ameen ya arhamar rahimin ya rabbal alameen. So Imam al-Haddad taught us about this first life or the first age of the human history with God, which is between the creation of Adam and our creation within him as seeds within his loins, alayhi salatu wassalam, our father Adam, all the way to the moment of our appearance as a human being with this form, in this form, all the way to the moment of our conception, all the way to the moment of our conception or our birth. So this is called the first life, and we have given it the name of Fajr, and the symbolism of this first life is like the duration between the Fajr and Dhuhr. So that's the symbolism of this life. So what we want, at least we have to come out with this fa'idah from this first chapter. If you cannot get everything, let us at least get this, that we had a life before this life. We had a life before this life. You were you before you were born. Since the time of Adam, since the time of the creation of Adam, you were created as a seed within him, and we had a life as seeds within the loins of our ancestors, all the way, or as electrons, or you can imagine things like that, as energy in this world, all the way to the moment of our conception, but we were there. And in this precedent life happened many things. The most important thing is the covenant between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, from nothing, He manifested Himself to us, and He made Himself known to us. He presented Himself to us. And He presented Himself to us, and He made Himself known to us. Well, it's beyond the form, beyond the imagination. Even ourselves, we did not have this form. We do not know in which form we existed, but we existed. We were there, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested Himself to us, and He took a covenant. Took a covenant upon us, from us. Naam. He took a covenant upon us, and He told us, am I not your Lord? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by such He made Himself known to our hearts. So some hearts started having that attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala since that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He said, am I not your Lord? He spoke to all the dimensions of our existence, to all the dimensions, to all the depths of our existence. What makes the human being a human being? The body. The body came later. But before that, what makes a human being a human being? His emotions, his thoughts, and his soul. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to our soul, but in the same time, He made Himself known to our way of thinking, or to our capacity of conceptualizing. So when He presented Himself to us and He told us, am I not your Lord? And we said, indeed you are our Lord, we recognize you, your Lord. When we said, we recognize you, it was the intellect who spoke, the heart who spoke, Everything that would make the human being a human being spoke and said, yes, we recognize you. Therefore, the intellect, in order for it to recognize God as such, it needs certain requirements. It needs to see certain things in God to recognize Him as such. The intellect would not accept a God that is dependent. The intellect would not accept a God that is naqas, that is lacking something. The intellect will only be reconciled with the image of God or the concept of God it was prepared for. It was downloaded in it. It was
designed to recognize.
It was designed to
recognize.
Yeah. It was designed to recognize. The intellect was can only accept the God that it was designed to recognize. Same for the heart, same for the soul, same for all the dimensions of the human being. So we have a memory of God going back, all the way going back before our fathers told us about God. This is the most important thing that we need to understand. We have a memory of God that is unconditional, of the teachings that we received from our parents. This is the heart of the teaching. We, you, me, her, she, everyone on earth, all the humans, we have a memory of God. Our memory of God goes back before the first time my father told me that there is God, or my grandmother told me that there is God, or I have seen my grandmother pray, or I heard the adhan on the minaret. It's not a social construction. Our memory of God is primordial. It was there before our birth in this world, which is called the second life, ad-dunya, or the lower world. So our memory of God goes before then. We had a first life before this second life. The life that you have, the life that I have now, the life that we have now is the second life. It's called al-hayatu ad-dunya. We read in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points to that when He says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. We created you in the first life, and then it's one of the meanings of that surah, and this is the surah of the covenant. It's called Surah Ad-Din, the surah of the religion, Surah Ad-Din. It's not Surah Ad-Teen. It is Surah Ad-Din. It is the surah of Ad-Din, the religion. That's how the ulama they call it. It is Surah Ad-Din. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about by the mountain of Teen. What is the mountain of Teen? Jabal Teen. Who's from Palestine knows Jabal Teen. What's the story of Jabal Teen? There is a mountain called the mountain of figs, the mountain of Teen, on which Sayyidina Aissa Jabal al-Zaytun, on which Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salam, Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salam, or Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, or both of them. The mountain of figs on which Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salam or Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam or both of them or many prophets of Bani Israel, they received or they made their covenant with God or they received the revelation for the first time. Jabal al-Teen, the mountain of Teen, and by the mountain of Zaytun and by Jabal al-Zaytun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing in the surah to the places, to the main
the sites of covenant with Him.
The main sites which witnessed this covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most important ones at least. So Teen, it was Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidina Yahya. Al-Zaytun, it was the mountain on which Sayyidina Aissa alayhi salam received the revelation, or the covenant was made with him. وَطُورِ سِنِينَ, and by the mountain of the Tur of Sinai. The mountain of Sinai is very famous. That's the mountain of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, وهذا البلد الأمين. وهذا البلد الأمين, and this holy land, and this Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So by these four sites. What are these four sites? These four sites are the sites of covenants. With whom? With prophets. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking covenant with, in order to do what? What's the mission of the prophets? To remind. To remind. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, very short surah that we recite, is telling us that the affair of this religion, that the matter of this religion does not depend on the prophets. It was there before these four covenants. والتين والزيتون وطور سنين وهذا البلد الأمين. Yes, these covenants are important. Yes, prophethood is important. Yes, and nubuwah is very important. But it's not creating God. It is reminding of God. The prophet does not come on earth to teach you about something you do not know about. The prophet comes on earth to remind you of who? To remind you of the God you know very well. The God you've known. You have a story with. Between Fajr and Dhuhr. Between the first life and the second life. You have a long story with. The prophets are mudhakkir. The prophets, they come not to teach us, not to brainwash us, not to give us a social construction, not to make a human-made gods for us. A human-made gods, they could be made out of hands, they could be made out of, and these are the worst ideologies. So the prophets did not come to give us a human-made gods, to teach us about something that, no. The prophets, they only come to, so that covenant of Teen and Zaytun and Turi Sinin and Al-Balad Al-Amin, the covenant that happened with Aissa on the mountain of Le Mont des Oliviers, on the mountain of Olives, the covenant that happened with Yahya alayhi salam, Jean the Baptist, or Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam on the mountain of figs, the covenant that happened with Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam on the Sinai, the mountain of Sinai, the covenant that happened with Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the holy land of Mecca, they are second covenants. They are second covenants. Nouveau Testament, they are New Testaments. The Old Testament happened in the old life. The Old Testament is what we spoke about at length now for 3 sessions. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. That was the true Old Testament. Now in the biblical language today, they refer to the Testament of Musa of being the Old Testament, and the Testament of Isa alayhi salam being in the reality both of them are new. The Testament of Musa, the Testament of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the Testament of Isa alayhi salam, the Testament of Ibrahim, Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa, all these testaments that happened to the human being when he was already in this a human form, are New Testaments. The old and the ancient, the true ancient Testament happened before this second creation. We had a first creation before. Understand? When we were created in that dimension, when we were seeds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took a covenant upon us, and He manifested Himself to us, and He presented Himself to us, and He taught us about Him. عَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. We were there when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught all His names to Adam, and we were there another time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested Himself to each and every one of us, and He told us, am I not your Lord? And we all bore witness, and we said, indeed you are. And to make a comparative or a figure of speech that we can understand today, all of us, who said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that time He downloaded, or He downloaded in us the software by which we will be able to read the scripture that the prophets will come with after that. Because you cannot read something without software. Do we put a CD for that phone that you are looking? Does it work like that? Doesn't work like that. You need to put apps in it. You need to put a system for reading the information. You cannot. It needs a system. It doesn't read anything like that. If you do not have WhatsApp on it, if you do not have there are messenger whatever on it, and I send you messages on messenger, not able to read them until you download that reading system,
application. The application.
The application of the reading system. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, during the first life, what did He do to us? خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم. He put in us, He downloaded in us all the apps. All the apps. أحسن تقويم. Best update were put there. علم آدم الأسماء كلها. All the apps were put there.
The best operating system.
The best operating system was put there, and all the apps were downloaded there, and we are ready as such to conceive God and to accept and to read the scriptures and to accept what the prophets will tell us about God, because the prophets will tell us something that we
already know.
We understand and we already know, and we can recognize as being the truth, and by which also we can crash, our system can crash and reject and repel any teaching that is not in concordance with these systems, with these applications, with these apps, with these programs, with these softwares Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in us, equipped our human system with during the first life. So everything was done during the first life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested Himself to us, and this life that we have today is called the second life. والتين والزيتون وطور سنين وهذا بلد الأمين. Do you know me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, do you want me to give you the story short? By the importance and the honor of this covenant I'm taking, I took upon Abraham, Jesus, Musa, John the Baptist, and yourself. The story goes back before you, guys. My story with this human being goes back before you came. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم. My story with this human being starts before that. I created this human being ready to receive these messages that you will teach them about. ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين, and after that we brought him down to this level of second life, ad-dunya, the lower world. That's our story. And in this dunya, as Plato says, we have to remember. All what we need to do here is it's an age of remembrance. This age is age of Subhanallah. In this dunya now, in our experiences with God, we have many experiences with God. All of us, all of you, we have experiences with God. Do you remember the first day you believed? Or the first day you saw the truth? Or the first day you got an attachment to a teacher, to a guru, to a spiritual master, do you remember that? It was very, describe it. There was a big, intense feeling. After that, Does that intensity remain? After that is the engagement that comes and replaces it. As you mature, as you become mature in the path, don't rely on the intensity of feelings anymore, but you rely on the engagement.
Dedication.
Ah?
Your dedication.
Your
to the
dedication, your
covenant.
engagement, your covenant. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested himself to us in the first life, that was the intense feeling. All of us, we got an intense feeling. Those who are Muslims today, those who are Christians today, those who are Jews today, those who know God today, those who refuse and reject God and deny the existence of God today, all of us, we were in that hallelujah. All of us, we got into that
Ecstasy.
euphoria, in that ecstasy, and say, Bala, indeed, you are our Lord. After that, we were sent in the age of labor, service. In the beginning, you come and, you are my teacher, you are my sheikh, etc. Marhaban. You will remember his perfume and his smell and his smile. Did not tell you go and work and go and do something. After that, it's going to be labor and service. And then during the moments of labor and service, only few will remember the sweetness of the first encounter. Only few. Actually, the majority of people, the first time the teacher will frown at them and will just correct them. That's not the way to do it. This is the way to do it. It will make them forget all the sweetness of the first time. Khalas. It will erase all the sweet memories. And that's the majority of the human beings. And that's kufr. That's the essence of kufr. That's covering. Covering what? Covering the first sweet memory, which is the reality. And they take that illusion, and they take that resistance of the ego, and it takes place of the reality, subhanAllah. It becomes reality. It's illusion, but it becomes reality for them. And then you ask them, oh, we are suffering here. Some, though, will remember. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. فهي سورة الدين وليست سورة التين. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did the same for us. During the first age, Fajr and Dhuhr, Assalamu alaikum, we got that sweet feeling, all of us. We got to experience that sweet moment, all of us. After that, now we are in this land of labor and fitna in the same time. It's labor, fatigue, this hayat dunya. What are the characteristics of this second life, of this life we're living in? What are the characteristics?
Struggle.
Struggle, fitna, distraction,
Challenge.
You're late. Challenge. What else? Loss. This is it.
Sickness.
This is how it is. Sicknesses, desires, temptations, distractions, challenges, struggles. All what you need to make you forget. All what you need to make you insan. Insan is made from nisyan. In Arabic etymology, the etymology of the word insan comes from nisyan, comes from forgetfulness. Insan means the forgetful animal. That's the meaning. That's how literally what makes us humans. Forget. Insan is a forgetful animal. We forget. He's a forgetful animal. Subhanallah, Ajib. You give him. Subhanallah, even in marital lives today, subhanallah. Ajib, la hawla la quwwata illa billahi al-azim. Yani, they live together for 10 years or for 15 years. She was so nice to him, cooking for him, doing everything to him, raising his kids, serving him more than what his mother did, more than what his sisters did. Subhanallah, so beautiful, so docile, so gentle, so ajib. Something changes in the heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our hearts. She never did anything good to me. She was always mean to me. She was this. And subhanallah, and the filter will work. All the good things will just disappear, and only these bad memories will stay there. You remember that day you told me? And that day you told me this and this and this. And you remember even the honeymoon becomes basal moon, becomes only when he goes back to the memories of the honeymoon. He was so, subhanallah. And she's, my honey, you are smiling in all the photos. How could you see? How could you see that bad memory? And subhanallah, no, he finds it. You remember that smile? It was a yellow smile. I was not really smiling. I remember that day you did this and this and this to me. Subhanallah. Ajib. And this is how it is. That's how the human being is. With God, our story is the same. And that's kufr. One day Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was joking with some of his sisters. He had some sisters with him, and he was joking with them, and he told them, "Inna kunna kafirat." You are kafirat. It's not you are kuffar. Doesn't mean you are. And one of them, she told him, "How that, Ya Rasulullah? How is that, Ya Rasulullah?" And Sayyidah Aisha was smart, she got it. She told them, "Yes, he's right. Takfurna al-zawja, takfurna al-ashir. Kunna takfurna al-zawja, takfurna al-ashir." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, "Inna kunna kafirat." You're really kafirat. Kafir, actually the word cover in English comes from kafara in Arabic. It comes from that root. Kafara, to cover. To deny, to forget. And Sayyidah Aisha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, she looked at the sisters, yeah, he's right. Takfurna zawja wal ashir. You
don't appreciate.
You do not appreciate the husband, and you forget the good things that your husband has done for you. And vice versa. It is true. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And so that's the essence of kufr. So kufr is forgetfulness. Iman is remembrance. And that's why we have tadhkir and we have remembrance. So the second life.
It's funny that you were talking about labor, because the second life starts with labor of the mother.
You call it labor. The second life starts with labor, and after that it is labor. Labor and labor. Struggle in the beginning and struggle in the end. Subhanallah. La ilaha illallah. Nothing in it is meant to be. Nothing in it is meant to be easy or sweet.
Except the memory.
Bismillah.
That's what brings the sweetness. The second life, dunya, the lower world. The second life begins when one is delivered from one's mother's womb and ends when one departs from the world in death. This, which is the middle of the lives, is also their purpose. It is the period when the human being is held accountable for responding to the divine injunctions and prohibitions, the consequences of which will be reward or punishment, endless happiness in the proximity of God, the high and majestic, or perpetual torment and distance from Him. Great individual differences exist between people as regards the length or brevity of this period, as also in other respects.
So the second life begins when one is delivered from one's mother's womb, and ends when one departs from the world in death. This is the only life we know of. But Imam Haddad is telling us we have 5 lives. This is one out of 5, and it is the second, it's not even the first. So the previous one, when we were seeds, now this is the second, the second life, when we are actually humans in flesh. Naam. And after that there will be a third life. And after that there will be a fourth life, and after that there will be a fifth life. 3 lives yet to come after this one. So this which is the middle of the lives is also their purpose. It's also their purpose, or their heart, or the most important one. The first life was a preparation for the second life, and the other 3 lives are consequences of the second life. So this second life is the heart. So the first life was what? Softwares, apps. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was designing us and equipped us with all what we needed to continue the journey with Him during the second life. And all the 3 lives that will come after, they are we'll see that they are results, consequences of this. They depend the outcome of the second life, Hayatud Dunya. It's the only life in which we are equipped with something called choice. Choice. It's called the life of the choice. It's not the life of the joys. It's the life of the choice, not the joys. Some people, they misunderstand it. They think it is meant to be the life of the joys. No. It's the life of the choice. The life of the choice. It is the life of the choice. It is the life of remembrance. It is the life of struggles. You name it. But it is the life of the choice. Only in this life we can make a choice. The first life, we had no choice. Now we have the choice. The third life, we'll have no choice. The fourth life, we'll have no choice. The fifth life, we will have no choice. But now we have the choice. It is the period when man is held accountable for responding to the divine injunctions and prohibitions, the consequences of which will be reward or punishment, endless happiness in the proximity of God, the high and majestic, or perpetual torment and remoteness from Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala afiyah, Allah protect us from all distance and all remoteness and all rejection. May we be all embraced, and may we accept to be embraced, because this life depends on whom? On us. Really, it's our choice. Do we accept to be embraced or not? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has embraced us, and He has given all what we needed, everything we needed in order to accept and see His beauty and embrace Him and welcome Him in our life. He gave us everything. Ahsan taqweem, the perfect reading system, we have it. The last update, khalas, there is no we have everything. So anything that a prophet or a man of God or a woman of God or any ayah of the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any sign should be totally readable, receivable, readable by this human being. So if you do not read it, is it because of the system was faulty? No. Cannot send it back to it's not Samsung. It's not Android. It's not
Apple.
It's not Apple. This is God Himself. لا يخطئ. The system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates does not
Malfunction.
fail. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the last thing that He put in us, and which is during the second life, He put something called choice. He gave us an identity called ego, our ego, and with our ego we can choose to be with Him or run away from Him. It's up to us. We can choose to read and embrace and be permeable to these signs of God manifesting in front of us, the messages of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifesting in front of us, or we can also choose to, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, to just turn away, ignore them, and then now when you read the Quran you will understand this vocabulary. All the vocabulary of the Quran is about iqbal, qabul, acceptance, or tarakuhu wara'ahum dhahriya, or turning your back to God, or turning your back to the truth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Iman is that permeability, is that the trust that you have in God, and embracing. That's how we would translate Iman. It's not faith, it's deeper than that. It's embracing. Iman is embracing, is with ing form. Iman is embracing God, while kufr or kufran is covering the truth, or rejecting the truth, or turning your back to the truth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Great individual differences exist between people as regards the length or brevity of this period, as also in other respects. Now, though it is short for everyone, even for those who will leave, even for those who live it, if the mythology says we have in some texts, none of them is in the Sahih, but we have some texts, and it is possible that the human being before used to live 900 years, or no, we have a verse فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ 50 سنة ألف سنة إلا 50 عام. So that's 950 according to the literal translation, literal understanding of the verse. على كل حال, people before, they used to live 1,000 years or whatever, but even when they lived 1,000 years, it's short. In the womb, Bismillah.
In the womb. This life begins with a prologue.
وذيك, by the way, the life of Nuh, 950 years. Some ulama, they said because all his people, they used to live 900 years and 800 years and 1,000 years, etc., and he lived 950 years. Some ulama, they said no, and this is the interpretation we are more inclined to. It was the miracle of Nuh. It was the miracle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Nuh, like the miracle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Jesus, that he did not die, he's still living in another dimension. And like the miracle Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Elijah, to Elia, that he is still living. Like the miracle Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a miracle, like the miracle Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the people of the cave. They remained alive in a sleepy form for 300 and Allahu a'lam how many, more than 300 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a miracle to Sayyidina Nuh to live 950 years, but he witnessed many generations, one after the other. So he only said وَلَا يَلِدُ إِلَّا فَاجِرًا كَفَّارًا after having witnessed with his own eyes 40 generations with no change. Then he said, "Khalas, so it's based on experience. 40 generations, no one was guided. 40 generations, khalas, these are 40. After 40 generations, he lost hope. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed him to lose hope. Out of Revelation, إن قد أوحينا إليك أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن. خلاص انتهى. ما في كلام. So it wasn't impatience or نقصان in him. So these stories in قصص الأنبياء يعني they are very problematic. They describe Sayyidina Nuh, oh, he was impatient, or had Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam been in his place, he would have had more patience. No, we don't. We shouldn't compare between the prophets in that way. But it's poisonous, and there is no fa'idah in it, and there is no khayr, yurja, in that comparison between Sayyidina Musa was less patient than Sayyidina Isa, or Sayyidina Isa was more grateful. They were all complete. They were all complete, yet in completeness there are degrees. But they were all complete. They're all complete. Bismillah. In the womb.
In the womb. This life begins with a prologue which resembles the intermediary world of the life to come, in which there appear many of those factors which cause one person to take precedence over another after the resurrection, and where some of the essences of worldly matters which pertain to the person before his death are retained. This prologue in the womb is the period of gestation, for it sees the appearance of some of the worldly influences which will apply to a person after his leaving his mother's womb, just as he retains something of the essences of the special existence within loins and wombs in which he had lived before he appeared in his mother's own womb.
So this is a prologue.
God mentions gestation and these phenomena and the stages through which it passes, the human being passes, in many verses in his eminent book. We created the human being from a product of clay. Then we placed him as a drop in a safe lodging. Then we made of the lump bones. Then we covered the bones with flesh. And then we brought him forth as another creation. So blessed be God, the best of creators. And, O mankind, should you be in doubt concerning the resurrection, then know that we created you from dust or earth, then from minerals, and then from a drop of seed, then from a clot, then from a lump of flesh, shapely and shapeless at the same time, that we may make it clear for you. And we cause what we will to remain in the wombs for an appointed time. There are also many prophetic teachings, hadiths, on this subject, one of the most comprehensive being that of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may God be pleased with him, as recorded by Bukhari and Muslim.
مخلقة وغير مخلقة. It's not shapely or shapeless. نعم. على كل حال. مخلقة وغير مخلقة, males and females. يعني that's how the cells are created. على كل حال. There are cells مخلقة, cells that reproduce, cells that would divide and become
doubles, yeah.
Their multiplication is like that, and there are cells that don't. They are غير مخلقة. They will just remain and they will continue to grow like that. They won't. Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam. So some cells, Allahu a'lam.
Some cells don't reproduce themselves.
Yeah, some cells do not reproduce themselves. This is the meaning.
The cells of the brain are like that. That's it. If you lose the cell in the brain, it doesn't go
Here you
back.
are. Here you are. That's the meaning. مخلقة وغير مخلقة. So this is in the Quran, explained in this depth. So, and then when we created cells, some cells are like the cells of the hair, like the cells of the skin.
Skin, yeah.
They are مخلقة.
The blood cells also.
Replicate.
Yeah.
It's original. And some cells are غير مخلقة. They خلاص. They do not
duplicate themselves.
They do not duplicate themselves.
So this is the prophetic teaching. The Messenger of God, peace be upon him, told us, and he is the truthful, whose veracity God confirms, any one of you will have had his created existence brought together in his mother's womb as a drop for 40 days, then as a sticky attached clot for the same period, then as a piece of flesh for the same period, after which God sends the angel to blow the spirit into him. The angel is commanded to write 4 words.
And this is when we say to blow the spirit into him, it's not the spirit of that would make him a human being. This is the spirit of consciousness. This is Ruh al-Hayawan. The spirit into him. Are talking here about
What will allow him to live in this world.
that would allow him to live in this world. Yet, he was a human being since day one. He was a human being since day one. It wasn't just a piece of flesh. Because some people, they take this hadith as a fundamental to say what? That abortion is
It's fine. The abortion is fine before the particular time when the spirit is blown into the fetus.
This doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that. The spirit here is some consciousness. It's Ruh al-Hayawan. It's the consciousness of this. It's a human consciousness. It's something else. It's not. Life force. Yeah, life force. So he can actually start moving by himself, etc. I believe also that's when the brain will start really dictating, interacting with the limbs. You know?
The angel is commanded to write 4 statements or words at this point. The apportioned provision of this human being, his lifespan, his deeds, and whether he will end up as wretched or miserable or as a joyful one.
This translation is problematic here. Wallahu wa rasuluhu a'lam. This is one of the ahadith that could be one of the strong proof of fatalism. Cannot say fatalistic people. So they think that everything is written since the beginning, and that's it. So the angel comes and writes 4 things. His apportioned provision. So whether this human being will be rich or poor, pay attention to this. We have no problem with that. This is called what? Context. All of this is context. So what the angel comes to do is going basically to design the context in which this human being will be
Functioning.
Will be functioning, will be writing his text. So the angel basically brings the context, the copybook, the notebook in which this human being will be writing his text. So being rich or poor is the context. The lifespan is the context. Some will live 40, some will live 60, some will live 80, some will live 20, some will live 10, some will live 2. Some won't even live, won't even be born. That's the context. The lifespan is a context, the provision. Some will be rich, some will be poor, some will be very rich, some will be very poor. That's the context. What else? He said, his deeds. Also our deeds are a context. What kind of deeds? Pay attention. I know it's a bit late, and if you have to pay attention, because this is very, very when we say the angel will write his deeds, which deeds? The deeds that he will end up making. If you say the deeds that he will end up making, means what? Means that we have no choice. So which deeds are there?
Selection.
Which deeds? the deeds that will be presented to him, the context.
The selection he can choose from.
Because we do not create our deeds. How does it work? How does it work? In every moment, and it's different for each person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will present to such a human being, to A, for example, in panoply, a selection of deeds from which he could choose, yaksib, from which he could choose. He said, I acquire this deed, or I ignore that deed, I won't acquire it. The deeds will come in the form of possibilities. Now with your phones, you understand this very well. It's like
options.
Huh?
Different options.
Different options, seriously. Options. And we do not all have the same options. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us with a different selection of options. The selection of options that you have. So for example, in your life, you had selection of options to become Imam or to become engineer. I never had that second option. I had to become Imam or to become a lawyer. Yeah, I had. But you never had that second option for example. Understand? Everyone in anything. For the one who has a glass of water. So this sister who is hiding now in the lotus, Sister Noor, who is hiding in the lotus and she's pretending that she's helping and volunteering, and that's because she's so thirsty, and her shaitan, for example, told her, come and break your fast early and just and pretend that you are fasting. So Noor, now in front of her, she has food, and she has drinks, and she has detoxed water, and she has smoothies, and she has coffee, and she has all of these things. So she has option to eat or not to. I don't have that option. I'm not tested with that option. Even if my shaitan comes to me and tells me, break your fast. Even if that happens, I don't have that option. I don't have that option. I have another option though, that Noor does not have. I'm talking. I can break my fast through backbiting, lying. So I'm not a backbiting Noor because this live stream is so easy. Had it not been live stream, mafhum, or lying or whatever, like so. So options, we do not, you understand? The image is clear? So when it is said that the angel will bring the deeds, will write the deeds of the human being, Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam, what our teachers taught us and what we understand, and that in that way things get reconciled, the options are written. ما هو الأعمال اللي ستنتهي بعملها هذاك في علم الغيب وذاك موكل بالخيار هذاك هديناه النجدين. But the options,
the range of possibilities.
The range of possibilities for each and every human being, they are not the same. They are not the same. Number 4, which is the most challenging, he said, here translating it in Arabic, it is شقي أم سعيد. شقي أم سعيد. ما قال يختم له بالشقاء أو بالسعادة. قال شقي أو سعيد. شقي أو سعيد. Happy or
unhappy.
Melancholic. والله ورسوله أعلم. This is how we understand it. The nature, the physiognomy, no, not physiognomy, the internal thing. So I am a melancholic person. I'm shaqi in my way of
temperament.
Temperament. The temperament. Marhaba. Bismillah, tafadhal. So the temperament. Some people are joyful, cheerful.
By nature.
By nature. Some people are melancholic, depressive, by nature. All of this is
nature.
All of this is context. All of this is context. Even with a melancholic nature, you can choose to be the happiest human being on earth if you choose the way of God. And even if you have the most joyful nature, you can end up becoming the unhappiest, the most miserable human being on earth if you do not choose the path of God. So these things are relative, these things are context. Context. So Allah wa Rasuluhu A'lam, what the angels comes with in the 4th month, and that's the time when the brain is developed, and the brain is taking control of the development of the limbs from now on. Wallahu wa Rasuluhu A'lam. Comes in the brain all of these things. All of these 4 things, the lifespan, scientifically speaking, don't want to go more in depth, scientifically speaking, will come a day soon when doctors will actually, Allahu A'lam, end up knowing the lifespan of each human being if there is no accident in his life.
The DNA.
Those who can actually die.
They're almost at that point with DNA. I mean,
so, because the lifespan of the human being is there in the brain. It's there in the brain.
It's programmed.
It's programmed in the brain. The provisionals of the human being is programmed in the brain. What is that? Beautiful daughter, what is that? What is that in your hand? No, not in the masjid, Mama. No. No games in the masjid, no phone games. Listen. Even at home, my choice would be not to give them that, but at least in the masjid. The 3rd thing that will be programmed in the human brain, indeed, they will be there. And number 4 will be the disposition, or it's not even a disposition, Sidi. You are even if you call it a disposition or a predisposition, that's not what I said. What I was saying, temperament. I did not even say the word disposition. Temperament. Yes, majority of scholars, they interpret it of being a disposition. Some people are more predisposed to become kafir. Some people are more predisposed to become believers. Allah wa Rasuluhu A'lam. We are more comfortable with this interpretation, and we feel it is more Quranic, and we see it is more Quranic, and it is acceptable within the theory of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So there is no need for us to force it in a way that will be to force something else in a way that will be that would sound as
it's contradictory.
It's contradictory with
the concept of choice.
With the concept of choice. No, there is a choice.
Free will.
There is a choice. You choose to be happy, or you choose to be unhappy. You choose God, or you choose to reject God. It is 100% the choice of the human being, and that's the only way this brain could be huh?
At ease.
Could be at ease. Because it was created to only accept that. Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Otherwise, we'll end up having people killing people and then, oh, I'm wretched. I'm condemned.
The brain was designed to be held accountable and to realize the weight of the accountability.
Is there though something called predestiny? Yes, but it was not written with the brain, with the angel there. The predestiny is something else. Is there something called predestiny? It's the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not fathomable for us. It's not something we can understand. We believe in it. Al-qada wal-qadar kada. We believe in it, but it's not something that our brain is ready to understand, conceive, or work with. That's why Rasulullah says, إِذَا ذُكِرَ الْقَضَاءُ وَالْقَدَرُ فَأَمْسِكُوا. It's not your business. It's not something that, it's something else. It's ilm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for the people of God, they will tell you that actually the choice of the human being, but this is not something that our brain will understand. But they will tell you, when you dive inside, you will find out that the choice of the human being, the perfect choice of the human being, completely independent choice of the human being, will end up going in the direction of the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Qadim subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not something that, this last sentence, my brain won't fathom it, so I don't need it. So for the brain-wise, أنت مخير أم مسير؟ أنت مخير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me in the Quran, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. You have the choice. This or this. To choose right or choose left. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us and give us the tawfiq and give us the power to choose the right choice every time. Ameen. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Ya Rabb al-Alameen. Ameen. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Ya Rabb al-Alameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammadin wa ala alihi. Naam. Aywa. Continue.
Do you want to explain? Read the next part?
Sorry?
Next
We'll
part
go.
because
Yes,
it's-
go ahead. Yeah, let's go. Because this hadith, they will stumble in it. Today or tomorrow, let us deal with it now. Yeah? No, this is هذا عثرة في طريق المؤمنين. Some ahadith, if they are من المشكلات أو ايش يقولوا الواجب التوقف فيها. You cannot just read and go. Some ahadith, some verses, we are not meant to just read and go. You have to
pause.
You have to pause and explain. Otherwise, they can become very problematic in the life of the believer. Bismillah.
By the one besides whom there is no other God, one of you may do the works of the people of the garden until he is separated from it only by an arm's length, and then that which has been written overtakes him, and he does the works of the people of the fire, and so he enters it. And one of you may do the works of the people of the fire until nothing remains between him and it but an arm's length. Then that which had been written overtakes him, and he does the works of the people of the garden, and so he enters it.
Read it again.
By the one besides whom there is no other God, one of you may do the works of the people of the garden until he is separated from it only by an arm's length.
Yes.
Then that which had been written overtakes him, and he does the works of the people of the fire and enters it.
Continue.
And one of you may do the works of the people of the fire until nothing remains between him and it but an arm's length. Then that which had been written overtakes him, and he does the works of the people of the garden, and so he enters it.
If you take this hadith exactly as it is written like this, literally, it's kufr. If you take it exactly like this, like it is written like this is fatalism. So this is basically telling you what?
Try as you might.
You are trying, yes?
Try as you might, if you're meant to be going to hell, then that's where you're going to go. You can spend your whole life.
You can spend your whole life embracing the poor, doing good deeds, praying, giving charity, purifying your heart,
Resisting
you know,
temptation.
resisting to temptation, but
Even at the last minute, it's going to.
this is the aqeedah of whom? This is the aqeedah of Jews and Catholics. Fatalism. This is the uqdah that ended the religion. This is the aqeedah. Fatalism is the aqeedah that
It's an end to.
it's an end to the religion. Because with fatalism, what is the solution? I will tell you. For example, with fatalism, they could explain, Catholics, for example, this idea of the exclusivity of the salut,
Salvation.
the salvation. And then how to explain to the children, so how about these people? They are nice. They are great people around us. Why do they end up going to, if they are not embracing, if they are not saying that Jesus is Son of God, etc., etc., etc. So how could they, and they are nice. Will they enter the hell? Yes, they will enter the hell. How? It's written, God has chosen His children. They were not chosen to be children of God. Or, God has chosen His nation. They're not part of the nation of God. Many Muslims today, or the majority basically, out of ignorance and arrogance and pretension and whatever, they ended up repeating the same thing. Fatalism has been always the aqeedah of the killers of the prophets and the children of the prophets. Al-Jabriyah. When the Jews were killing prophets, and they come and tell them, why would you do that? Said, مَلْحَمَةٌ كَتَبَهَا اللَّهُ عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. Something that was written upon us. We cannot change our destiny. We are meant to do this and this and this and this and this. And then you find these people of eschatology, etc. And they are very obsessed with these things, and this will happen, and that will happen, and this will happen, and that will happen. And as if we are in this world just
Just pawns. Just puppets.
And in Islam, the story of Islam, fatalism, the first people who started the fatalism, etc., were politicians. It started in the time of Hajjaj bin Yusuf, Thaqafi, and part of his people, and the people who killed Hussein ibn Ali. A group from the Khawarij ended up becoming a group from the Khawarij and a group from the Umayyads. They ended up becoming the fatalists. Why? To leave what? To lift what? The responsibility, the accountability. To tell you, that's how I am. And you find these stories, for example, that al-Hajjaj, he will be killing people in the morning, and during the night he will be praying and making tawbah and Ya Rabbi, help me, help me, help me, but he end up killing people the next day. And then, khalas, it sounds more like the Seigneur des Anneaux, the Lord of the Rings and Schmiegel and khalas, condemned to be lost. Even when he tried so hard and he tried really to become good and to become and khalas, no, he's meant to be wretched. This is very dangerous way of perceiving our history with God. No, it's not true. That's not how we should see it. Okay, so I have a text, and it is an authentic text. Should I go like many scholars today and de-authenticate it and say no, it's not possible? I mean, authentic hadith. the authenticity of all the hadith, the majority of the hadith is relative. But that's not the way, that's not the good path. No, we'll keep it as an authentic hadith. As long as there is a way of interpretation that goes with the harmony, that goes in harmony with the Quran, that goes in harmony with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us, that goes in harmony with the other teachings. That goes in harmony with the rest of teachings. Then we keep the hadith and we choose the interpretation. This is the method. This is the method of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah. So this hadith is telling us what? So my teacher, when he taught us this hadith, he says, people will be acting, doing the actions of the people of the heaven. Like what?
Fasting.
Praying, fasting.
Charity.
While keeping the heart of the people of the... So they will be acting
hypocritically.
They will be acting hypocritically. They will be just acting as faithful people, while keeping the heart of unfaithful people. May Allah protect us. By the end of their life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose them. And whatever was in their heart will be
brought to the surface.
Will come out, even if they are so Bismillah. From the other door, my brother, from the other door. Alhamdulillah. Hafidhakumullah. So that's how it happens. So they will act as the people of the heaven, for example, doing good deeds, etc., 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 until, wal'ayadhu billah, there won't be anything between them and anything in the eyes of people. In the eyes of people, say, oh, subhanAllah, these people are perfect believers, etc., etc. And whatever is in their heart will manifest in their deeds. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ الْعَلِيِّ الْعَظِيمِ. And then they will, and the opposite is also true. Some people will be acting with the actions of the people of the fire, while keeping the seed of the people of God in their heart, until the right context will come, and they will end up answering the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will end up entering the Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us and due tawfiq, and give us and due understanding. Anyways, these ahadith of predestiny in general, and these ahadith, yes, we can have an interpretation like this, etc., and make them speak to our intellect, and make them speak to our mind, and then having them reconciled totally with our brain. Or we can interact with them in a way that is not talking to the brain, but talking to we can receive them, instead of receiving them with our brain, we receive them with our emotions. And the majority of verses of the Quran and the majority of the religious teachings, they're not talking to the intellect, but they are talking to the heart, targheeb wa tarheeb. They expand the heart to create hope in it, to give hope to the heart, or they contract the heart to cause the heart to fear, because it is with fear and hope this heart
will grow spiritually.
This heart grows. With fear and hope, this heart grows. The muscles of the heart, the muscles of our emotions, you need fear and hope. If we give you hope all the time, you will end up being demotivated. You need fear and hope, fear and hope, fear and hope. Fear and hope do not speak to the intellect. Intellect does not fear, and intellect does not hope. Intellect does what?
Calculates.
Think and analyze and understand. The intellect does not fear, the intellect does not hope, the intellect does analyze and understand, and needs to be reconciled with things he is designed to understand. So a text that is not meant to be understood by the intellect should not be rejected like that. Maybe it is meant to speak to the heart. And many texts cannot speak to the intellect. For example, when I tell you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you go to God walking, God will come towards you running. This hadith speaks to the intellect. It speaks to what? To the heart. Your heart will get it. You get it. Actually, it will bring tears to your eyes. It will bring tears to your eyes. It will help you to have a good and authentic and true relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you go to all the ahadith that our intellect does not understand, and all the verses of the Quran our intellect does not understand, and we just remove them and say, no, there must have been a mistake there. Some scholars today are trying to do that. Some scholars today, and they became very successful because they speak to the scientific mind of people today, are trying to do that. Everything should be 100% understood by the human intellect. You will be depriving yourself from the
flexing of the heart.
From the
flexing of the heart.
The flexing of the heart.
The growth of the heart.
The growth of the heart. Because you are not but intellect. You are a heart. Actually, more than being an intellect. And the heart does not need to understand. The heart
needs to be exercised.
Needs to be exercised. Hope and fear. So, even if we do not choose to go with the interpretation that I have given you of this hadith, which is an interpretation that makes it 100%, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi, that makes it 100%, acceptable, understandable, reconcilable
with the rational thinking.
With our rational thinking. When I told you that wretched or happy means melancholic and joyful nature, etc. It makes sense. Cannot come and tell me you are making up something from nowhere. It makes sense. And many scholars in the past, they actually opted for this understanding. Even if you do not want to go with that choice, it's not an option for you to choose the fatalism as an understanding. So all the scholars, the common denominator between the scholars of Islam is blocking the door of fatalism. Even if it sounds like fatalism, it's not fatalism. It's something else. How? The brain cannot understand it. So what? Get it to your heart. Get it to your heart. It is there to stir some emotions in you. It is this hadith, in the way it is described, it is there to stir some emotions in you. Hey, listen, don't take God for granted. It's not because you are doing well today that means that you will end up well. وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ. By the one the soul of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in his hand. Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling you, you may work, you may do all your life, right? And the moment you think that you made it, you lose it. Be careful. Don't take God for granted.
And don't take good for granted.
And don't take good for granted. And also, do not lose hope. You see this hadith? If it speaks to the mind, if we force it onto the mind without interpretation, it leads to fatalism and despair. Now, if we receive it with the heart, with no interpretation, because the heart does not need interpretation. If we receive it with the heart, subhanallah, it gives you the balance. It gives you the balance. It gives hope to the hopeless. Someone addicted to wine, a lady who spent all her life in prostitution for 50 years, and now you tell her, sister, it's not too late. Come back, the door is open. She'll tell you it's too late. You bring her this hadith. Listen, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told you, you may do the works of the people of the fire, of the hell, all your life, and the last minute you make tawbah, genuine and sincere tawbah, and everything will be erased. Subhanallah. And you go to this arrogant scholar, son of scholar, son of scholar, son of scholar. Some scholars today, they think that scholarship is a
Inherited.
It could be inherited, or is a dynasty. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, and it becomes a club, and only for this family of I don't know what, and this family of muhaddithun, and this family of what. No, it's not for families. Even though we are coming from family scholars, but it's not for families. We cannot take it in that way. Ala kulli hal. Even if you are from that family, son of so, 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 be careful if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you take that for granted and you are not thankful for that gift and you do not really receive it, you end up fighting with Dajjal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So you understand? Now this is what? This is the heart. This is the emotion. So some ahadith are meant to stir emotions in the heart of the human being, are not meant to be rationalized. Though I gave you a way, if you want to rationalize it, I gave you the way how to rationalize the hadith. I gave you the way how to rationalize the hadith. Fatalism, though, is not an option. To take it like that intellectually is not an option. With no interpretation is not an option. To take that hadith with your intellect, with no interpretation, is not an option. It leads you to kufr wal a'yadhu billah, because fatalism is فرقة مبتدعة فرقة كافرة. الجبرية ليسوا بمسلمين. الجبرية ليسوا بمسلمين في مذاهب الفرق الضالة. Some فرق are مبتدعة وأهواء وكذا. الجبرية it's not a misunderstanding of the religion. Those who believe that this life, there is no choice at all in this life, and just we are just puppets, etc. It's not. It leads you out, away from the whole thing. The whole nubuwah is questionable, the whole. So why? So what is all of this? So مذهب الجبرية والعياذ بالله قالوا أخبث مذهب ظهر أخبث بدعة. and في الفرق ايش اسمه صاحب الملل والنحل قال there isn't a bigger test, there isn't a harder bid'ah, there isn't a worse innovation that happened in the story of Islam worse than the fatalism, al-Jabri. Those who will tell you that you are forced and khalas, just go. You are brought into this world like the one who was
hands tied behind his back.
Hands are tied behind his back and thrown in the sea, and they will tell him, swim, don't drown. There are some poetry of Jabriya like that, and people, they love them. Some people, they love them. Poets love them. Poets love them. Not subhanallah. Because the human being wants to. Sisyphus, you know Sisyphus? It sounds like Sisyphus. trying hard, half God, half animal, but it's your, khalas, you will never make it. You'll, predestiny. You are written to be wretched. You are written to have the rock fall on you every day. Astaghfirullah al-wahid al-ahad. What a miserable way to image our story with God, and what a miserable frame to frame our story with God in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yaltuf bina, give us understanding, the dua inshallah. If you have a conclusion of the dua.
I was just going to say that we see that this innovation that came about in the Islamic history. It's not something that's just in the past. We see it coming back now in our world today by people who don't believe in God, but who believe in context, and who social scientists and so on, who claim that the way your life unfolds and the things that you choose to do are based on the circumstance into which you were born, and that you're condemned to that. So if you were born in a bad neighborhood, then you really are going to become probably a drug dealer or a gang member, and it's not your fault. You didn't have a choice. So just stay that way, essentially. And if you are hearing about people like that and you're still young, then that's probably where you're going to end up as well. So limiting people's sense of the power that God has put in us in order to dictate a certain way of unfolding your life story. And we see that a lot, and we see that being defended a lot all around us. That
what they call it, social?
We talked about that before. Determinism. Yeah.
Social determinism. Social determinism.
And again, it calls into question the whole point of teaching or sharing advice or calling people to good. It basically says there's no point. Because if someone grew up in that environment, they saw certain things as a child, it's done for them. Don't expect good of them. Don't expect that they can transform. And of course, it eliminates God from the story entirely. Don't expect that God can shine His light into anyone's life or His guidance. So that means that you're Muslim just because you were born that way, and it's just a cultural, it's just an effect of your cultural upbringing. And there's nothing celestial about it, there's nothing that is essential about it, and there's nothing that's worth sharing about it, which is very, very dangerous. So we have to be careful when we hear those things and when we use those things to excuse ourselves foremost. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have compassion for people who are going through difficulty, but we should never eliminate the possibility of change, because that is always a gift.
The possibility of change and the choice. Yes, born in the ghetto, you can choose to be Nelson Mandela or choose to be something else. You can choose to be Elijah Muhammad or Malcolm X. Why do you want to be Elijah Muhammad, not Malcolm X? Or not Elijah, the other one who killed him, not Elijah Muhammad. The one who killed Malcolm X, what's his name?
From that group.
Yeah, but it has another name. Ala kulli hal, you can choose. You can choose. It's not, there is no determinism. There is no determinism. Alhamdulillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Oh Allah, we ask that you would bless this gathering, and that you would allow us to feel the presence of angels, and that in knowing the power that you've given us, that we would be grateful to you for that, and that we would rely on you to guide us with that power to choose that which is good, and that you would enable us to feel accountable and responsible, and to stand and be able to take the burden of that accountability, and to not make excuses for ourselves, and to not come up with reasons for everything that we do. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, we've entered into the time of this month, which is the time of forgiveness. Oh Allah, we ask that you would allow us to recognize our faults, that we may receive your forgiveness. We ask that we would not be people who try to deny any fault, for if we were to deny our faults, then we have no room to ask you for forgiveness. Oh Allah, grant us your forgiveness. Grant your forgiveness to all of your creation, all of our brothers and sisters in humanity. Release the bonds that hold people to this world and hold people to their sins. Allow them to be in our prayers tonight and for this whole month. the person who's addicted to pornography, let him be in our prayers tonight. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, make us selfless in what we ask for. Allow us to pray for those people with the same urgency and fervor that we would pray for our own children and ourselves. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, bless everybody who comes into this space and everyone who comes to any home of yours. Grant them greater gifts than what they came bearing, and fulfill all their hopes and expectations beyond what they even imagined. Fill them with light and tranquility and peace. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Wa salatu salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Sayyidul Mursaleen, fi kulli waqtin wa hin, ya Rabbana lakal hamd, wa ila sharaf al-Nabi al-Fatiha.
Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
ربي صلي على النبي شفيعنا أحمد الله صلي ربي